At dawn, a flock of starlings folds across the sky like smoke. Below them, a village market opens its doors. Yet thousands of wild birds fly overhead, untouched and unnamed. That absence looks ordinary. It is not. There are more than 10,000 known bird species on Earth. Humans regularly eat only a tiny fraction of them. Why do we not eat the rest? The answer moves through disease, law, memory, and fear. By the end, it reaches something darker. Maya Torres first notices the pattern in a crowded coastal market. She is a food anthropologist who studies what cultures refuse to eat. Beside her walks Elias Reed, an ornithologist with mud on his boots. Lena Park, a chef, carries a notebook stained with oil. Amina Diallo, a conservation officer, watches the bird cages near the alley. Kenzo Mori, an epidemiologist, keeps his hands in his coat pockets. Tom Vance, a former hunter, says almost nothing. They have come to answer one question. Could a person safely catch, cook, and eat a random wild bird? Lena stops beside a tray of farmed quail. The birds are small, clean, and nearly identical. Across the street, sparrows scatter from a gutter. They are also absent from every menu. The difference is not simply size. A chicken converts grain into meat with extraordinary efficiency. It tolerates captivity. It breeds under human control. Most wild birds do none of those things well. Some migrate across continents. Some defend huge territories. Some lay only 1 or 2 eggs each year. Some become sick or violent in crowded enclosures. A farm needs predictability. Wildness is the opposite of predictability. Elias draws 2 circles in Lena's notebook. One circle represents animals that can be domesticated. The other represents animals that are merely edible. The overlap is smaller than most people imagine. Very few can become reliable livestock. That distinction shaped human history. Ancient communities did eat wild birds when seasons allowed. Bones from geese, pigeons, cranes, and seabirds appear in archaeological sites. But hunting them demanded time, skill, and luck. A storm could change its route. A winter could empty an entire marsh. Grain-fed poultry stayed close to home. Wild birds carried dinner into the sky. The group travels inland to a wetland surrounded by reeds. Tom points to a line of ducks moving above the water. He remembers cold fingers, wet clothes, and hours of waiting. A single missed shot could end the day empty-handed. The bird might fall into deep water. It might be wounded and escape. Hunting was never as simple as pointing at the sky. Wild birds carry feathers, blood, organs, parasites, and uncertainty. A supermarket chicken hides that history beneath plastic. A wild carcass forces the eater to confront every step. Lena kneels beside a legal game bird supplied by a licensed farm. She opens the body cavity with a careful knife. The meat is darker than chicken. The muscles are lean and dense. Flight changes flesh. A bird that crosses oceans does not build the soft breast of a broiler. That endurance can make the meat metallic, bitter, or intensely wild. Diet matters too. A seed-eating bird may taste mild. A fish-eating seabird can carry an oily marine flavor. A scavenger may concentrate whatever it has consumed. A bird feeding near industrial waste may absorb heavy metals. A bird eating toxic insects may store defensive chemicals. The menu of the bird becomes part of the bird. Kenzo unfolds a map of migration routes. A bird can feed in one country, rest in another, and die in a third. Its body records every wetland, landfill, farm, and shoreline along the way. That makes contamination hard to trace. Farm animals live inside monitored systems. Wild birds move through invisible chains of exposure. Lead fragments can remain after a gunshot. Agricultural chemicals can accumulate in fat. Bacteria can spread through crowded nesting grounds. Viruses can travel farther than any truck. The danger is not that every wild bird is poisonous. The danger is that you often do not know what history you are eating. Maya writes that sentence on the first page of her journal. Above them, a hawk circles the marsh. Amina looks up and says that legality comes next. In many countries, most native wild birds are protected. The rule is not based on flavor. It is based on collapse. Bird populations can seem endless until they are suddenly gone. The passenger pigeon once darkened North American skies for hours. People killed them for food on an industrial scale. Nets, guns, poles, and smoke brought birds down by the wagon load. The abundance itself created a fatal illusion. No one believed such numbers could disappear. The last passenger pigeon died in captivity in 1914. A species that looked infinite became a museum label. The silence it left changed wildlife law. Great auks were killed for meat, oil, and feathers. Seabird colonies were raided until cliffs emptied. Songbirds were trapped because tradition made them desirable. Raptors were shot because people saw them as competitors. Protection arrived only after appetite proved stronger than restraint. Amina leads the group into a rehabilitation center. An injured eagle grips a padded perch. Its yellow eye follows every movement. No one in the room imagines it as dinner. That moral reaction is learned. Humans divide animals into emotional categories. Some become companions, some become symbols, some become pests, some become sacred. The categories can change across borders and generations. A pigeon in one city is a nuisance. A pigeon in another place is a delicacy. A songbird can be a protected marvel in one forest. The same species can appear in an illegal market hundreds of miles away. Culture decides what looks normal before science enters the conversation. That is why the darkest meals rarely begin with hunger. They begin with prestige. The team travels to a restaurant kitchen after midnight. Lena places an empty white plate beneath a hanging lamp. She describes dishes once served to display wealth and secrecy. Rare birds became valuable because most people could not obtain them. Prohibition sometimes increased the desire. A forbidden meal allowed diners to purchase more than taste. It allowed them to purchase power. Maya recalls accounts of tiny songbirds prepared whole. The diner consumed bones, organs, and flesh together. A cloth was sometimes placed over the head. Others said it hid the act from God. Whether literal or theatrical, the gesture revealed shame. The eater knew the meal crossed a boundary. Yet the boundary made the experience more seductive. Tom turns the empty plate over. The porcelain strikes the steel counter with a hard click. He says hunters often speak about respect. Respect can also become a story people tell themselves. A person may admire an animal and still destroy it. A tradition may carry beauty and cruelty at the same time. The camera would prefer a simple villain. Reality offers a chain of ordinary choices. One trapper catches the bird. One driver moves the cage. One seller hides it behind legal poultry. One chef prepares it. One customer pays. No single person feels responsible for the empty forest. The system survives because guilt is divided into small pieces. Kenzo opens a refrigerated case used for confiscated wildlife samples. Inside are feathers, tissue, and swabs from illegal markets. The labels record avian influenza, salmonella, and unknown pathogens. Most microbes do not care about culinary tradition. They care about opportunity. Capture brings stressed animals together. Transport mixes species that would never meet in nature. Cages collect saliva, blood, feathers, and droppings. A knife moves from one body to the next. A hand touches a beak, a coin, and a face. The market becomes a bridge between ecosystems. Not every bridge produces an outbreak, but every unnecessary bridge creates another chance. Wild birds can carry disease without looking sick. Their body temperature, migration, and social behavior shape how pathogens move. Cooking can kill many microbes. It cannot repair careless handling before the fire. It cannot remove every toxin. It cannot identify a species that was misnamed. It cannot reverse ecological damage. The question is no longer whether meat can become safe in a pan. The question is what happened before the pan existed. At sunrise, the team visits a forest edge where traps were recently removed. Thin branches bend over patches of disturbed soil. Amina finds a loop of nearly invisible wire. A single red feather clings to it. No bird remains. The empty trap tells the story more clearly than a carcass. Wild birds reproduce slowly compared with industrial poultry. Removing adults can erase future generations at once. A male may never return to a nesting territory. A female may leave eggs to cool. Chicks may starve without anyone seeing them. The damage hides high in trees and deep in grass. A market stall displays only the final body. It does not display the abandoned nest. Elias places the red feather inside a paper envelope. He explains that birds are not only decorative life. They pollinate plants. They spread seeds. They control insects. They clean carrion. They connect wetlands, forests, farms, and oceans. Eating one bird may look like a private act. Across thousands of buyers, it becomes ecological engineering. Remove enough seed dispersers, and a forest regenerates differently. Remove enough insect eaters, and farms use more chemicals. Remove enough scavengers, and disease risks can rise. A plate can reach far beyond the table. The darkest reason is not that wild bird meat is always disgusting. It is not that every species is deadly. It is not even that humans suddenly became compassionate. We stopped eating many wild birds because earlier generations nearly erased them. Law stepped in where appetite had failed. Convenience helped the law succeed. Chicken became cheap, uniform, and available every day. Industrial farming removed the need to chase seasonal flocks. The safer substitute reduced pressure on the sky. But that solution carries its own costs. Factory poultry can create suffering, pollution, and disease risk. The choice is not between pure farming and corrupt wilderness. The real choice is how much harm a food system hides. Lena returns to the farmed quail from the market. She seasons it lightly and places it in a hot pan. The skin tightens. Fat crackles against metal. A familiar smell fills the kitchen. Nothing about the moment feels dangerous or forbidden. That normality is the result of breeding, inspection, refrigeration, and law. It is also the result of forgetting. Most diners do not picture the wild ancestors behind domestic birds. They do not see centuries of selection. They do not see vanished flocks. They see dinner. Maya asks each member of the group for a final answer. Tom says a random wild bird is not worth the shot. Kenzo says uncertainty is itself a risk factor. Amina says legality is the minimum, not the moral limit. Elias says abundance must never be mistaken for invulnerability. Lena says curiosity does not require consumption. Maya closes her journal. Outside, evening gathers above the city. Pigeons settle on wires. Swallows cut through the last orange light. A crow drops a walnut onto the road and waits for a car to crack it. The birds are hunting, migrating, nesting, stealing, adapting, and surviving. They occupy the same world we do. That does not make them an unused pantry. It makes them neighbors in a system we barely understand. The question at the beginning was whether we could eat a random wild bird. Biologically, the answer is sometimes yes. Culturally, the answer depends on where you stand. Legally, the answer is often no. Ecologically, the cost may be larger than the meal. Medically, the uncertainty may travel farther than the diner. Historically, the warning is written in Extinction. The real mystery is not why wild birds disappeared from our menus. The real mystery is why some people still mistake rarity for permission. A silent forest does not announce the final meal that emptied it. It simply waits for birds that will never return.